Welcome, everyone. So, today we are going to be focusing on kind of lower body stuff. So, some hamstrings, maybe some hips, maybe some quad stretching. So, it's going to be sort of a lower body focused class today. So, we're going to start on our backs, coming to any comfortable position you choose. So, we can have our knees bent if that's more comfortable for us. And if we do decide to bend those knees, they can be pointing straight up toward the ceiling. We can walk our feet out towards the edges of the mat so the knees kind of rest in against each other. Or we can bring the soles of our feet together and let those knees open out to the sides, especially if we want to kind of open up the inner thighs and hips right away. And then arms can rest down by the sides or on the belly or out into a T position. Really, whatever feels most comfortable for you today. Maybe allowing the eyes to close if we like. Starting to bring our focus inward towards the breath, the body. And just letting go of everything else. Taking some nice full deep inhales and exhales. Maybe taking a scan of the body, starting with the feet, moving up into the lower legs, into the knees, and thighs, moving up into the glutes, the hips, the belly, and the low back, the ribs and the mid back, the chest and the upper back. Moving into the shoulders and down the arms, moving down through the upper arms into the elbows, the forearms and the wrists, the hands and the fingers. And then moving back up into the neck and the head, including the face and the top of the head. Just noticing what's there, noticing any sensations that we're feeling. Remembering that this is your practice. So you always have the choice to skip or modify anything that doesn't work for you today. Listening to your body and staying with your breath, staying in the present moment and letting go of any judgment or expectations about your practice today. Let's all go ahead and bend our knees now if they're not already bent. We'll bring our knees together and walk the feet out towards the edges of the mat. Moving the arms away from the body a little bit, and we'll start with some windshield wipers. So just taking our knees back and forth, side to side, moving at our own pace here. We'll take a couple more on each side. When we're done, we'll bring those knees back up to the center, walking the feet in towards each other a little bit, maybe bringing them in a little closer to the bottom as well. Extending arms out into a T, and we'll drop both knees to the right for a lying spinal twist. Keeping our shoulders grounded, maybe turning the head to look down the left arm. Releasing, bringing the knees and the head up to the center, dropping the knees over to the left, maybe looking down that right arm. Start to move with our breath. So inhaling the knees up to the center, exhaling them over to the right, inhaling them to center, and then exhaling them to the left. So we'll just continue to move with our breath at our pace. Inhaling these through center, exhaling, alternating them from side to side. Keeping our shoulders grounded, we can keep the feet on the mat, or we can pick them up and bring those knees a little closer to us. Our head can stay still, or we can look in the opposite direction of the knees as we twist. And let's take a couple more on each side. And when we're done, we'll bring our knees to the center, hugging them into the chest, giving them a little squeeze here. Let's open up our knees a little bit. We'll reach the arms between our legs, grabbing a hold of the big toes with the first two fingers of thumb, or we can grab onto our ankles or calves. We'll reach our feet up toward the ceiling for a happy baby, opening up the hips, bringing those knees down on either side of the chest, pressing the tailbone down towards the mat. And then if we like, we can gently rock this pose from side to side. Returning to center. Let's extend the right leg out towards the right side. Bending that right knee and then extending the left leg out towards the left side. Bending that knee, and now we'll extend both legs out to the sides, pressing the tailbone down towards the mat. And then we'll bend our knees and bring the soles of the feet together, grabbing a hold of our ankles. We'll pull our ankles in towards us, maybe using our elbows to press the knees away from us. And releasing, hugging the knees into the chest. Let's take some rocks from side to side. Placing hands on kneecaps, let's circle them around, first in one direction. And then in the opposite direction. Returning to center, either rolling onto one side and making your way up to a seat that way, or grabbing a hold behind the knees. Using the legs, creating a little momentum and rocking up into any comfortable seat that you choose. So you might want to sit with the legs extended out into staff pose, or maybe you want to cross the legs, or maybe come into, a lotus or half lotus. And we'll roll our shoulders up, back, and down, dropping the chin down towards the chest. Bring that head back up to neutral. We'll take the right ear over towards the right shoulder, keeping our shoulders level so we're not leaning to one side, we're not picking a shoulder up to find the ear. If we want to, we can take our right hand to the side of the head, add a little extra weight to the stretch. Maybe walk our left fingers out to the left side. Come back through center. We'll take the left ear over towards the left shoulder. Again, keeping our shoulders nice and level. Maybe taking the left hand to the side of the head. Maybe walking those right fingers out to the right side. And releasing back to center. Let's tuck the chin in slightly towards the throat, keeping that chin level with the floor. And then we'll turn the head to look over the right shoulder. Again, keeping our shoulders still. Maybe dropping the chin down towards that shoulder a little bit. Lift that chin back up, coming through center. Let's look over the left shoulder. Maybe drop that chin down towards that shoulder a little bit. Bring that chin back up, coming to center. Bringing hands behind the head, looking all the way up at the ceiling. Releasing, taking some shoulder circles first to the front. And then we'll circle our shoulders to the back. Leaving those shoulders back and down. Let's start to circle the torso around in the hips. Inhaling as we bring the chest to the front. Exhaling as we round the spine to the back. Moving with the breath at our own pace. Making circles, large, medium, small, whatever size we like. Taking one more in this direction. Pausing and circling around in the opposite direction. Again, inhaling to the front and exhaling to the back. Let's take one more here. Come back to center. Let's bring the soles of our feet together. Coming into Baddha Konasana, so holding on to ankles, sitting up nice and tall, hinging it forward at the hips. And maybe taking those elbows and pressing down towards the floor, pressing those knees down towards the floor. Keeping that spine neutral, relaxing the shoulders away from the ears. Releasing our fold, still holding on to our ankles. Let's rock back and balance on our sit bones, lifting the feet. Keeping our heels pressed together, we'll pull the toes apart. Staying here, holding on to the ankles or maybe sliding the forearms under the shins with the palms facing up for blossoming lotus. Keeping the feet lifted, we'll grab a hold of our ankles again, or maybe this time grab the big toes with the first two fingers and thumb, and then we'll extend the legs out into a wide-legged boat. Using our core to stay balanced up on those sit bones so we don't rock back. And let's release, coming back into Baddha Konasana again, folding it forward. And let's go ahead and make our way to all fours for our cat and cows. So bringing our wrists underneath our shoulders and our knees under our hips, maybe putting something to pad the knees like a blanket or a pillow or just a fold in our mat. Maybe coming onto fists rather than be on our palms if that feels better for our wrists today. On our next inhale, dipping the belly down, looking up into cow. Exhaling, arching the spine, tucking the chin and the pelvis under into cat. And let's just flow with our breath. Warming up the spine, inhaling and exhaling. Let's take a couple more in each direction. And let's take one more of each. And we'll come back to our neutral tabletop and we'll start to circle our hips around. So we can choose whichever direction we want because we're going to switch directions in a few moments. So just making these circles whatever size we like. We can start out small and gradually increase their size. Just warming up those hips a little bit more, moving the head of the femur around in our hip sockets. Let's do one more in this direction, then we'll pause and start to circle around in the opposite direction. And again, we can choose whatever size circles we like. Let's do one more here. And then when we're done, we'll come back to all fours. Let's go ahead and take our right leg back and we'll tuck the toes under. And then we're just going to kind of rock back and forth here. So kind of stretching out the toes, the ankle, and the calf here. So just some little rocks here. And then when we're done, we'll bring that right knee back under the hip and we'll extend the left leg out behind us. And again, just kind of rocking back and forth. And then when we're done, we'll bring that knee back under the hip. And we'll sink the hips back to the heels, coming into a child's pose. So any version of this pose that we like, we can extend arms out towards the front of the mat. We can stack the hands or fists and rest the forehead on them, or we can bring the hands back by the feet with the palms facing up. The knees can be together. We can separate them out. Can I help you, sir? You're very sad. Okay, you can come in, but you have to be good. So remembering that we can always choose to rest in child's pose or any other seated or lying down pose of your choosing anytime during the practice today. Resting and then just rejoining us whenever you like. So we can stay here in our child's pose a little longer if we want to. If we're ready, making our way into downward facing dog, planting the hands at the front of the mat, shoulder width apart, fingers spread wide. We'll come forward and tuck the toes, lifting the hips up and back into Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. So if we like, we can pedal our feet out or shake the head out or take one leg up into three-legged dog at a time. Really any movements that feel right for you and your body today. And that may be no movement. You may just want to be still in your downward dog. You may want to return to child's pose or lower your elbows and come into dolphin to take some pressure off of your wrists if they are talking to you today. And if you are moving, we'll eventually find a place of stillness in our pose, tucking the chin, looking back between our legs. And then looking up to the hands, we'll just walk the feet up to the hands, coming into a forward fold. So feet are hip width apart, we'll soften the knees, grabbing opposite elbows, letting that upper body hang. You can shake the head out side to side. You can take it front to back. You can sway the whole torso from side to side. Returning to center, releasing elbows, placing the hands on the shins of the thighs, extending the spine, looking forward. Taking a couple nice deep breaths here. On our next exhale, we'll fold, inhaling reverse swan dive all the way up. Exhaling, hands into heart center. And releasing the arms down into Tadasana, mountain pose, and just pausing again to check in the breath and the body, just noticing how we're feeling. Let's take a nice big step out to the side for some moonflowers and sunflowers. Turning our toes out about 45 degrees on an inhale, reaching up and out to the corners of the room. On an exhale, bending the knees, bring the elbows into our sides, and inhaling, reaching up and out. Exhaling as we bend. Let's take a couple more here. And then we can stay with moonflowers or transition to sunflowers, inhaling the arms all the way up, palms touch, exhaling, bending the knees, circling the arms down and around, inhaling, rising back up, exhaling as we fold. Let's take a couple more here. On this last one, let's leave our hands down on the mat, or we could bring in a block if you like. We can widen our stance a little bit too. And then we're just going to bend one knee at a time, going back and forth. Again, just kind of warming up those hips a little bit more. Trying to get inside of my yoga blanket, sir. Let's take one more on each side. Coming back to center. Bending both knees, we'll walk our hands up to our thighs. Lifting the chest up and bringing the hands into heart center. And releasing, inhaling, straightening the legs. Reaching the arms up, turning towards the front of the mat, stepping the feet together at the top of the mat, and releasing the hands into heart center. And then we'll release the arms down, into Tadasana Mountain Pose. And pausing again to check in. So we're going to move through some sun salutations. If you have blocks, you may want to use them today. So if you happen to have 2 blocks, we're going to set one up on either side of the mat, a little bit behind where we are going to start. Don't have blocks, no worries. So coming up to the top of the mat, let's inhale, reach arms up. Exhaling as we swan dive down, forward fold with soft knees, bringing the hands down to the mat. We'll step our right foot to the back, and we're going to drop that right knee down to the mat. Bringing in our blocks, if we have them, and we'll place one hand on each block here. Inhaling, lifting the heart into our lunge. Exhaling, straightening the left leg, folding into half monkey god pose, Ardha Hanumanasana. And then we're just going to flow between those 2 poses, inhaling forward into that lunge, lifting the heart, exhaling back into half monkey god pose. Just taking a couple more of those little mini flows. And the next time we are in our lunge, let's pause and we'll move those blocks out, bringing the hands back to the mat, stepping that left foot back to downward dog or child's pose. Inhaling forward into a plank, shoulders come over the wrists. We can stay on our toes or lower our knees. Exhaling down, chaturanga. Inhaling, lifting the heart to cobra or up dog. Exhaling, pressing back to downward dog or child's pose. Stepping that right foot up by the hands, helping it get there. If it gets stuck, staying on toes or lowering the left knee. Inhaling, reaching arms up. Exhaling them down, taking the left foot up to the front, forward fold. Inhaling, reverse swan dive all the way up. Exhaling, hands into the heart. And inhaling up. Exhaling as we fold with soft knees, hands come to the mat. This time the left foot steps back and we lower that knee, bringing in our blocks if we're using them today. Inhaling, lifting the heart at our lunge. Exhaling, straightening the leg, folding half monkey god pose. And then just riding the waves of our breath. Inhaling forward. Exhaling back. Couple more times through. The next time we are in our lunge, let's move our blocks out, bring the hands down, stepping right foot back to downward dog or child's pose. Inhaling to plank, staying on toes or lowering knees. Exhaling down, chaturanga. Inhaling, cobra or up dog. Exhaling, downward dog or child's pose. Stepping that left foot up by the hands. Staying on toes or dropping the right knee. Inhaling, reaching arms up. Exhaling them down, taking the right foot up to the front. Inhaling, reverse swan dive all the way up. Exhaling, hands into the heart. And inhaling up. Exhaling as we fold with soft knees, hands come to the mat, right foot steps back. And we're going to drop that right knee. This time, we are going to bring our left hand to the right of our foot. So moving into lizard. And we'll stay in our lizard for a few breaths so we can keep our arms extended. You could use your block to give you a little bit more height if you need it. Or if you want, you can bend the elbows and lower the chest down towards the mat a little bit. So breathing into the hips, wherever you're feeling the most sensation. Using that sinking breath. Let's take one more breath here. And then on our next inhale, we'll come back up. Exhaling, taking our left foot back for downward dog or child's pose. Inhaling to plank, shoulders come over the wrists. We stay on toes or lower knees. Exhaling down, chaturanga. Inhaling to cobra or up dog. Exhaling, downward dog or child's pose. Stepping that right foot up by the hands. Staying on toes or dropping the left knee. Inhaling, reaching arms up. Exhaling them down, taking the left foot up to the front. Inhaling, reverse swan dive all the way up. Exhaling, hands into the heart. And once more on the left, inhaling, reaching. Exhaling, folding. Left foot steps back, and we drop that knee down. Bring our right hand to the left of the foot, toward the instep side of the foot. We can stay with our arms extended, or we can start to soften the elbows and lower the chest down. Feeling the spine lengthen on those inhales and deepening the pose on the exhales. On our next inhale, we'll come back up. Exhaling, taking the right foot back for downward dog or child's pose. Inhaling to plank, staying on toes or dropping knees. Exhaling down, chaturanga. Inhaling to cobra or up dog. Exhaling to downward dog or child's pose. Stepping the left foot up by the hands. Staying on the toes, you're dropping the right knee. Inhaling, reaching arms up. Exhaling them down, taking the right foot up. Inhaling, reverse swan dive all the way up. Exhaling, hands into the heart. And then we'll release the arms down into Tadasana Mountain Pose. And just pausing here. Slowing the breath back down. Inhaling to reach the arms up. Exhaling as we swan dive down, forward fold with soft knees, hands come to the mat. We'll step the right foot back, turning that foot out 45 degrees and dropping the heel. Keeping the left knee bent, we'll walk up the left leg for Virabhadrasana Echo Warrior 1. So if we want, we can give ourselves a little hands-on adjustment here, using the right hand to gently guide that right hip a little forward, maybe leveling those hips out if one hip is really up high. And then once we've got our hips sort of set, we can find any arm position that we like for our Warrior 1. So we could leave the hands at the hips or bring them to heart center, raise them up overhead, maybe bring our palms together overhead or bend the elbows and take cactus arms or have the arms parallel. Relaxing the shoulders away from the ears. Breathing here. And then let's release our hands to our hips, straightening out our left leg, and we'll step that right foot up a little bit closer, shortening the stance a bit. We're going to come into pyramid. So with hands on hips, let's inhale, lengthen the spine, looking up at the ceiling. Exhaling, folding over our left leg. So we can rest the hands on our left thigh or the shin. We can bring in our blocks, or we can bring the hands all the way down to the mat. Are you going to settle down, sir? Or are you going to be a wild cat? You're being kind of wild today, I must say. So breathing into those hamstrings, maybe giving ourselves another little adjustment here with that right hand, placing it on the right hip and then bringing that hip forward and down. Trying to level out the low back. And then we can bring that right hand back down to whatever support it was resting on. Sink a little deeper into our pose. Let's bend our right knee. We'll bring our hands to the mat, excuse me, sir. And then we'll step our right foot back, take a nice big step, maybe wiggle those toes a little further if we need to. And then we'll drop that right knee down to the mat, coming into a low lunge. So if we need to, we can always pad that right knee. We want to make sure that right knee is behind our right hip, so we're really getting a nice stretch into this right hip flexor. Our left knee is over the ankle in the front. And then let's walk our way up this left leg, lifting the chest, sinking the hips. And then if we like, we can pick up that right foot. Now, if we're feeling a little wobbly, taking our block and placing our left hand on the block. Maybe reaching back for our right foot with our right hand. If we feel steady enough, we can take our left hand into chin mudra, bringing the thumb and index finger to touch. Gently releasing that right foot down, and we'll bring our hands back to the mat. Let's come back into our half monkey god pose that we did in our sun salutation. So straightening out this left leg, flexing the foot, maybe sliding that heel out away from us a little bit. Inhaling here, lengthening the spine, exhaling as we fold over our left leg. And we'll release. Let's make our way back through that lunge. And we'll step our right foot up to the front, taking our left foot back, turning that foot out 45 degrees and dropping the heel, keeping the right knee bent, walking up the right leg for warrior one on the other side. And again, we can always make ourselves a little adjustment here using that left hand on the hip, kind of squaring off the hips a little, leveling them out. And then finding whatever arm expression we want for our warrior two on this side, relaxing those shoulders, breathing here. Nice deep breaths. Releasing hands to hips, straightening out the right leg, stepping the left foot up a little closer, shortening that stance. With hands on hips, inhaling, lengthening the spine, looking up. Exhaling as we fold over the right leg, so we can rest our hands on either the thigh or the shin, maybe bringing in those blocks if we like, or bringing the hands down to the mat. You know, it would be good if you would just lay down and go to sleep. What happened to cats sleeping 18 hours a day, huh? And again, if you want to adjust that left hip, bringing the hand to the hip and moving that hip forward and down, and then releasing that hand back down, sinking a little bit deeper into our pyramid. And we'll release. Let's bend our right knee so we can get our hands down to the mat. And we'll pick up our left foot and step it back, maybe wiggle those toes a little further back before we lower that knee. And that's just so we can make sure that we have that really nice form with our right knee over our right ankle and the left knee behind the left hip. And then walking our way up this right leg, clasping hands together on top of the thigh, lifting the chest, sinking the hips, feeling that nice stretch in our left hip flexor. And again, we have the option to pick up that left foot, pointing the toes up toward the ceiling, maybe bringing our right hand to our block, maybe reaching back for the left foot with the left hand, maybe taking that right hand into Chin Mudra. Gently releasing the foot if it's lifted. We'll bring the hands back to the mat or to our blocks if we're using them. And then let's straighten out this right leg, flexing the foot, pulling the toes up toward the ceiling, maybe sliding that heel out away from us. Inhaling, lengthening the spine, exhaling, folding over that right leg. Ardha Hanumanasana, half monkey god pose. Using that sinking breath. Let's make our way back through our lunge. And then we'll step that left foot up to the front, coming into forward fold, and we'll reverse swan dive all the way up. Exhaling, hands into the heart. And then releasing the arms down into Tadasana, mountain pose. Pausing here. Again, checking in. All right, for a little bit of balance, let's do tree today. So feel free to come off of your mat and move closer to a wall, or just come to a spot that is a little easier for you to balance on. And then we'll start by bringing our feet hip width apart and parallel, toes spread and relaxed, core engaged, pelvic floor lifted. We'll bring the hands into the heart, shifting weight over to our right leg and taking our left heel up to the side of the ankle. So we can stay here with our left toes touching the floor, or we can start to slide the foot up to the side of the shin, or we can pick that foot up and place it in the inner thigh if we choose. But let's just try to avoid placing that foot on the knee joint. So if we want to come above the knee, I find it helpful to pick my foot up so I can really place it up into my inner thigh and get it up above my knee. The hands can stay at the heart, or we can grow our branches, reaching arms up, maybe taking them out, relaxing the shoulders. If we need a little extra challenge, we can look up at the ceiling or even close our eyes for a moment or two. Releasing the hands back to the heart if we raise them, and then we'll release that left foot down, circling out the right ankle a couple times in each direction. Let's reset the feet, preparing for the other side, and we'll bring the hands into heart center. Shifting weight over to our left leg, taking the right heel up to the side of the ankle. Keeping those toes on the floor, or sliding that foot up to the side of the shin, or bringing that foot all the way up into the inner thigh. Again, if you want to come above the knee, it's best to actually pick that foot up and place it there. And then we can leave the hands at the heart, or we can grow our branches, again, reaching arms up, maybe taking them out, spreading our fingers out to make leaves on our tree. Always challenge ourselves a little bit more by closing the eyes or looking up at the ceiling. And then let's bring the hands back into the heart, releasing that right leg down, circling out the left ankle. And we'll come back up to the top of the mat. Inhaling, reaching arms up. Exhaling as we swan dive down, forward fold with soft knees, bringing hands down to the mat. We'll step the feet to the back one at a time. coming into downward facing dog. Taking our right leg up for a three-legged dog. Staying there or bending that right knee, twisting, reaching that knee up toward the ceiling, opening up the hips. Releasing and bringing the right knee towards the right wrist for pigeon, Kapotasana. Sliding that left leg back. So we can always choose a figure four, stretch our back if this isn't really working for our bodies today. We can always prop underneath the right hip with a block or a blanket. And then if we like, we can fold, resting the head on the hands, the block or the mat. Staying folded or coming back up for king pigeon, Raja Kapotasana, lifting the chest. And then bending the left knee, pointing the toes up toward the ceiling. We can stay here or we can reach back for that left foot with our left hand. We can hook the foot into our elbow if we want to. And then if we want to balance this pose, we can reach out with the right arm. And releasing out of king pigeon. If we're in it, let's all make our way back into downward facing dog. Tucking the left toes under, lifting those hips up and back. Taking that left leg up for a three-legged dog. Staying there or bending the knee and twisting, reaching that knee up toward the ceiling, opening up the hips. And then releasing, bringing the left knee towards the left wrist, coming into pigeon on the other side again. Walking that right leg back, maybe taking that figure four or propping something underneath the left hip. And then let's fold when we're ready. And we can stay folded or we can come up for our king pigeon, lifting the chest, bending the right knee, pointing the toes up toward the ceiling. Maybe reaching back for that right foot with our right hand or hooking the foot into the elbow. If we want, we can take the left arm up and balance. And releasing. Let's all come back up and roll down onto our left hip, bringing the right leg around to the front. Coming into staff pose, Dandasana, extending the legs out long. You can move some of the flesh out from underneath the sit bones. We could sit on a blanket if there's not a cat already occupying your blanket. Flexing the feet, inhaling, reaching arms up. Exhaling as we fold, hinging from the hips. So reaching for our feet, our ankles, our shins, or our thighs, or we can use a strap to extend our reach, or we can take a block to the bottoms of the feet and hold on to that. If we are on the more flexible side of the spectrum, or we just have super long arms like I do. And we'll release. Go ahead and roll all the way down onto the back. Hugging the knees into the chest. And let's take some rocks from side to side. You just go lay down somewhere, sir. Let's circle those knees around first in one direction. And then in the opposite direction. Coming to the center, let's hug the right knee in. We'll release the left leg down. Give that right knee a little extra squeeze here. Extending that right leg up towards the ceiling, pointing and flexing that foot a few times. And circling the foot around, first in one direction, and in the opposite direction. Grabbing anywhere along the leg or using a strap, pulling the right leg in for a hamstring stretch. Your left leg can be bent or you can straighten that leg out along the floor. Excuse me. Extending that right leg out towards the right side, keeping the left side of the body anchored to the mat. So we can put our hand on our hip to hold it down or activate the muscles in that left leg. We'll take that right leg up and across the body over to left, extending the right arm out into a T, keeping that right shoulder on the mat, maybe also looking down the right arm. Releasing, bring the right leg back up, bending both knees, crossing the right ankle over the left thigh for a figure four, reaching the right arm between the legs and pulling on the left leg. So we can clasp the hands on the back of the thigh or the front of the shin. And let's line that left knee up over the left shoulder. Releasing that right leg, hugging the left knee in. We'll take that leg up, pointing and flexing the foot a few times. Circling it around, first in one direction. And then in the opposite direction. Grabbing anywhere along the leg or using your strap, pulling the left leg in. Right leg can be bent or straight. Opening that left leg out to the left side, keeping the right side of the body on the mat. And we'll take that left leg up and over to the right, extending the left arm out into a T, keeping the left shoulder on the mat, maybe looking down your left arm. And we'll release that, bring the left leg back up, bending both knees, crossing the left ankle over the right thigh, reaching the left arm between the legs and pulling on the right leg, lining the right knee up over the right shoulder. And we'll release, hugging the knees into the chest, extending the arms out into a T. You can either just drop both knees to the right, or if you like, we can cross the left leg over the right thigh first, and then take the knees to the right, keeping both shoulders on the mat, maybe looking down the left arm. And we'll release and switch sides. If you cross legs one way, we'll cross them the other way. And we'll drop those knees to the left. release. Uncrossing the legs if they're crossed, hugging the knees into the chest, giving them a nice squeeze. And releasing it all down. So preparing for our guided meditation. So if you have any props or layers of clothing that you'd like to put back on, go ahead and grab those items and get yourself set for your guided meditation. Coming into any comfortable position that you choose for your meditation today. Closing the eyes and slowing down the breath. Imagine yourself being enfolded in the loving arms of the universe. Feel the gentle, loving touch. Allow yourself to lean back into that embrace and feel the sense of peace, love, and unconditional acceptance that fills you. Surrender to that love. Let go of anything that is unlike peace and acceptance. Feel the wind come up and blow away anything that no longer serves you. You effortlessly let go of any resistance or emotions that rise to the surface. You allow yourself to be embraced, loved, and healed by the universe. And we'll start to wiggle our fingers and toes, circling the ankles and wrists, and reaching the arms up overhead, just stretch and release. And either rolling to one side or hugging the knees into the chest. Taking a few deep breaths before you make your way up to seated. Coming up into any comfortable seat you choose to finish your practice today. Sitting up nice and tall, we'll close our practice with 3 deep breaths, inhaling the arms up and exhaling them down. Inhaling up and exhaling down. Once more, inhaling up. Bringing the hands together at heart center as we exhale. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste.